This old man, he played three. He played knick-knack on my tree with a knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. This old man came rolling home. This old man, he played four. He played knick-knack on my door. Oh, hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Clantus, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into today's video. As you guys can tell by the title of the video, it is story time. I know that my channel is about all things YouTube, so I thought let me do something different today and tell you a very, I don't know if you're gonna call it funny, but some people might get upset with the story, but I promise you there's a moral to the story at the end of the video, so stay tuned and find out what it is. However, let's start here because I have two cousin sisters and I have been their mkongi, basically a lobola negotiator for both of them. Now, lobola in South Africa is dowry, so for a woman to get married, the man that intends on marrying her would have to gather his uncles to come and speak to the uncles of the girl that he intends to marry. In this case, one of my cousin sisters, but actually both of my cousin sisters, but at different times. So they will then sit down and then basically negotiate the dowry, which is ilobola in my culture. And so I did something because I do have a very strong prejudice against lobola, and I will tell you why. Gender-based violence in South Africa, most of the perpetrators of it justify why they beat up their wives because of the dowry they have paid for them. So you can't tell them anything. They will tell you, I paid for her. You can't tell me anything. So in order for me to protect my cousin sisters, I also have a younger sister, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing should a man come to ask for a hand in marriage. So usually the dowry is in cattle, and usually the cattle will be about 7 to 8. Well, culturally speaking, they're supposed to be 7 to 8. In some cultures, it's about 11 to 20 cows, which I don't know how they are able to afford that. But in my culture, we also say that ilobola never finishes. So that means you will forever pay lobola once you are married into the girl's family, whatever the case is. So the man that had come to ask for my cousin sister's hand in marriage, I was not feeling him. I was not feeling him at all, but hey, what business of mine? There are two people that are in love and they want to get married and establish a family and live happily ever after, right? But I still had this hunch about this gentleman. So I decided that, okay, instead of asking for cows, all we're going to ask for is cash. And the cash that I asked for was 8,000 Rand. Yep, you heard me right. So in our culture, in this family, we're supposed to ask for 7 cows for our daughter's hand in marriage. And so I said, okay, instead of asking for that, all we will ask of you is 8,000 Rand. Nothing more, nothing less. I remember they all looked at each other as if I had gone crazy, including my own family. They were like, what? No. I was like, well, I've made up my mind and this is how much we are going to take from you. And they wasted no time. They had like a stack of they had a stack of money bills in their possession. They just took that out. Literally, this guy was showing me that you can have all this. You could have all this. And then he slowly started taking out the 200 Rand notes and the 100 Rand notes out of that stack of bills. And it made 8,000 Rand. And then he pushed it over to me and my cousin brothers, my brother as well, my older brother. They were like, okay, we need to go and have a chat. I said, no, we don't need to have a chat. This is what I have decided. And so 8,000 rand was paid, celebrations took place after that, everybody was happy. So during the course of preparing for marriage, there are other cultural things that also happen in between before the wedding day. So I'm not going to waste your time with all those other traditional ceremonies that take place, Umembeso and all that stuff. No, it's boring. But I want to lead you straight to when they were married. So about a year or so into the marriage, the gentleman started abusing my cousin's sister. And I told my cousin's sister, if he throws the first slap, girl, pack your things and come back home. We have not thrown you away. The first slap, come back home. And so he did that. But she didn't say anything. She decided to stay. I didn't know that this is what she was enduring. One day, he beat her so bad that she landed up in hospital. And I remember I was at work when I got the call. One thing about me, I'm very protective of my female family members. I remember when I got the call, everybody said, do not tell Clantis. Clantis is going to kill him. And so, unfortunately, the hospital bill was pretty high, and the only person who could pay it at the time was me. So they had no choice but to call me. And when I found out what had happened, okay, let's just leave it there. Anyways, I went with her home, and indeed I found her husband in the house. I had to take a deep breath. I stood there and I said, you pack your things. Pack your things. She packed up her things, and the guy was like, and I was like, say one word. I dare you to say one word. So he was like, no, I paid Lobola for this. I'm like, Lobola, fortunately, in my wallet in the car, I had 10,000 rand. And it was for something else. And I took the money and I threw it on his face. I said, it also has 2,000 rand interest. I never want to see you again in our lives. You are going to be receiving divorce papers. If you dare, trust me, I will cut it off. And so I took my cousin's sister and I took her back home, and I told my aunt that I brought our daughter back, and the reason why I charged 8,000 rand was for this very reason. Because if they had paid 50,000 rand right now, everybody will be like, oh my goodness, where are we going to get this money? Oh, I did not want to get to that point. I wanted, when he says I paid for her, take his money, give it back to him, and then bring back our child, because we don't want no child going to the early grave because of another idiot who thinks that he has a right to a woman's body in any way he feels like it, just because he paid Lobola for her. So I was not going to have it with my family members. So indeed, I went and I got her a divorce lawyer, and the divorce processes started taking place. I had one thing that I held against him, that if you're not going to sign these divorce papers, you must remember, in South Africa, a criminal case does not have a limitation statute. It lives forever. I can open a case of assault against you at any given time I want to. There are hospital records, pictures were taken of her bruises and injuries and things of that nature. I said to him, if you are not going to sign the divorce papers, trust me, your butt is going to prison, and I'm going to make sure of it. So the divorce process did not take longer than 6 months. My cousin's sister was now a free woman, and we never had anything to do with that family again. I did not trust this man that he was going to keep my cousin's sister safe. Something about him was off, but I could not put my finger on it. But because I also know that some men, they are very abusive to their wives or girlfriends or female figures in their lives. And I was not going to have it with any of my female family members whatsoever. I always say, I don't know what I would do to a guy that would beat up my sister, because it's going to go down. Trust me. It will go down, people. It will go down. I'm Zulu. So a few months down the line, after the divorce with my cousin's sister, this gentleman did find a girlfriend and then they stayed together. So the gentleman went back to his old ways and he started beating up his new girlfriend. Unfortunately, he did kill her. I felt very sad for her, but I was happy that my sister was saved from that situation because it could have been her. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional about this because it was us who was going to bury our cousin sister. Who was going to bury our cousin sister had I not done anything? Had I been greedy in the lobola negotiations and said no, 50,000 rand? But my gut was telling me about this guy that something's not right. He looks good, he looks well brought up, but something was just not right about him. And I'm glad that I followed my instincts. I'm a person who's very intuitive. I think it's a Cancer thing as well. And if my intuitions tell me something, usually I listen, but most times I don't. This particular one, I was like, no ways. I'm not giving away my sister to somebody that I don't trust. And basically that was that. Now, 3 years down the line, her elder sister gets married as well. Again, who becomes Umkongi, the lobola negotiator? Me. So the reason why they trusted me again with lobola negotiations was because of the lesson they learned from the younger sister. But there was something different about this guy. He was gentle, he gave up very positive vibes, and he and I vibed really well. He was educated, he was very smart as well, soft-spoken, and he and my cousin sister seemed to have a very well coordinated relationship. So what I'm trying to say is they were best friends. They loved each other, and everybody knew that these two are untouchable. They will definitely make a wonderful couple, and I felt that. So with this one, I was still not willing to give away my cousin's sister with exuberant amount of money. I wanted to still be able to go fetch her from a marital home if the husband turns out to be a monster. So I charged this gentleman 15,000 rand instead of 8,000 rand. I said, okay, we will just charge you for one cow. Of course, again, other ceremonies took place in between the time of lobola and the time of the big day. So indeed, they got married, and my cousin's sister, she only had a senior certificate, which is matric, so she could not further her studies, but her husband had a degree from a very prestigious university here in South Africa. And so they were basically going to live a comfortable life. So indeed, they did live a comfortable life. Out of that marriage, 2 children were born, a boy and a girl. And they basically were living the happily ever after type of goal. And my cousin's sister, because she was feeling a little bit bored being a stay-at-home mom, she asked her husband if she could take some courses in computer programming. She was fascinated about computers for reasons I still don't understand to this day. And so the husband was like, oh no, it's fine. If you want to advance and develop yourself, I'm here for you. I'll support you financially and every other way. And so indeed, for the next 3 years, my cousin's sister was taking courses in computer programming. So she did graduate from that course, and now and again she would get like piece jobs from big companies, either to consult or to do something for them in respect of this whole computer thing, and she would make some money out of that. Usually these jobs she will get them from her former professor, which was a female she became friends with. So the professor would find some jobs for her students who were not employed. Unemployment was by choice for my cousin's sister and her husband. They both decided that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom, but she was getting bored because the children as well were starting to grow up, and the firstborn already started kindergarten, and the secondborn was going to go to kindergarten the following year. So she felt that once the kids start going to school, basically she would have nothing to do at home. So she then went, her husband fortunately allowed her to go to school, unbeknown to the rest of the family that she was actually taking courses. Only I knew that because I have a very close relationship with my eldest cousin sister, and so she would tell me everything, and I would also keep tabs that is it treating you right, everything is going well in the family. And she was pretty happy, and I believe that she was happy, and I was very glad that she married a gentleman. Unfortunately, about 2 years since she graduated from a computer programming courses, the husband unfortunately passed on. He was involved in a car accident coming back from work. It was a rainy day. Now, this is where everything just goes down south. And we had to think on our feet. So there there are some people in this world. I don't know if it happens in other cultures, but it happens a lot in the Zulu culture. I'm sorry for exposing my culture like this, but this needs to be talked about. Otherwise, we'll continue to have this issue every single time. So my cousin sister's in-laws, on the day after her husband was buried, my cousin sister was called by her in-laws, and basically they said to her, listen, what brought us together is now no longer, so it's time for you to leave. Basically, that's what they told her. And she was like, okay, I don't have a problem with that, because we did say till death do us part. And so now that has happened, I don't see an issue with that. But I was wondering, why you saying I should leave? This is my house. They said, no, this is our child's house, meaning her late husband's house. So of course my cousin sister protested. She was like, no, this is my house. It's my house and my children's house. It's my marital home. So they were like, yeah, this is our son's house, and therefore we are asking you to leave. Leave everything, don't touch anything. All we will allow you to take is your clothes and your children's clothes. And then she asked them, but now these are his children. Are you also throwing them out on the street as well? And then they started saying things that were funny. Her brother-in-law, who happened to be the elder brother of her husband, said to her, how do we know that these children are even his? And yet these children were a spitting image of her husband. Obviously, my cousin sister was offended, and she realized very soon that she was not going to win this fight. So she decided peacefully to pack up all the things that were important, birth certificates of the children, her own personal documents, and other documents that she needed with her. But they told her, make sure that all the documents that you are picking up, you don't take the title deed, and you do not take any document in relation to policies. So she did not argue. She then called me and said, hey, cuz, guess what? I was like, what? Please come and get me. I was like, why should I come and get you? Remember, guys, this is on the funeral day. The husband just been buried, and I had to leave and go. I can't remember where I had gone to, but I had to turn around, and because I was feeling very negative about what she was saying. I went back to her house, and she was standing outside with bags. Remember, in black funerals, people don't leave immediately. There is like this so-called after tears, and people still talking about the deceased and just being in disbelief. So there she was, still in black clothes, and her hat that had like a black veil over her. She just stood there with her 2 children and bags, and people were just looking at her like. And as I was driving, coming towards her, I'm like, what is happening? And so she just started breaking down and crying as if she just heard that her husband passed on. And everybody just gathered around her. We're like, what's going on? And I was like, guys, give her some air. I opened the back door. I let her inside the car. and got the children inside the car, took her bags and put them in the boot, and then drove off so that we can speak in private. And indeed, when we just drove to McDonald's and then we sat down and she told me the whole story, I was like, yeah, but wait, how is this even possible? I know I've seen these stories before. I've heard of these stories before as well, that how some family members would basically hijack inheritance that was rightfully not theirs. And so I was like, oh my goodness, it's happening in the family. And so we had to quickly plan what we were going to do. So the first thing that I wanted to know from her was whose name the house is in and whose name is the cars in. And I also wanted to know if he had any policies. Interestingly, I didn't know this myself because they kind of like kept it from the entire family on both sides, that about 10 years ago, the late husband was laid off work because the company had migrated to another country. And so he's been struggling to find a new job for the last 10 years. Because she had a computer programming degree, so she kind of like took over in taking care of the family. The husband would get piece jobs now and again as well. On this particular day when he passed on, he was coming back from one of the piece jobs that he was doing. So my cousin sister was the one basically was taking care of the family. She's the one who bought the house. She's the one who bought 3 of the cars that they had. She's the one who was paying the children's school fees. She was the one basically just responsible for the household, but they played it out in the eyes of other people as though it was the husband. Yeah, my cousin sister, that's the type of woman she is. She is very protective of her family, and she wanted her husband to be treated with dignity by all. So nobody knew that. I knew, and the outside of the family knew that she was working full-time, but her husband's family side did not know that she was employed and she was basically the breadwinner of the household. So every month she paid the house bond. Every month she paid for the car installments, including insurance, the children's school fees, policies. So so this is when we started plotting. She and I started sitting down and we were plotting. We were like, okay, I asked her a question. How do you feel about your in-laws right now? She says, I hate them. I was like, but these people were very nice to you. They're like, yeah, like all in-laws would do. They would be nice to you. If they're not be nice to you, they will just flat out show you that they don't like you. But this particular family, they seem to like my cousin sister, especially her mother-in-law, who now turned on her like alcohol in the belly. And so she was the one who was just pushing this whole thing that she needs to leave. So when she finally left the house, and they lived in a very nice community in the suburbs, it's like a gated community type of it's a gated community, but with boom gates, not necessarily like an estate. It's a suburb with boom gates. I don't know if you've seen a setting like that. It's for security type of thing. So they all started moving from the township and moved into the suburb, into my cousin sister's house. Now, what they didn't know was, number one, the house was still being paid for. Number two, the cars was also still being paid for. The furniture inside the house was also still being paid for. And I said, sister, this is easy. Stop doing payments. Don't pay for the house, don't pay for the cars, don't pay insurance, don't pay anything that has to do with that house. Sooner or later, the sheriff of the high court is going to come and evict them. The bank is going to come and repossess the cars. And I was like, don't worry, there's going to be a repossession of everything. They're going to be left dumbfounded. And when that happens, we will be right there sitting in the car in secret and watching it all fall flat on their faces. So basically, a few months down the line, exactly that what happened. Okay, my cousin sister and the children came and stayed with me while she was looking for another place to stay. So She got the summons from the bank, she got the summons from all over the place, and I told her, do not respond to the summons. The thing that you want to get is default judgment, which was going to lead to eviction as well as repossession of the goods in the house, as well as other stuff that the bank would repossess. We planned that all communication was going to come through to my address, no longer at the house, so they don't see that actually they're living in a house of cards. It was getting a little bit exciting because as far as I was concerned, and as far as we were both concerned, we were teaching these people a lesson. Just because their son was the one that was working at one point does not necessarily mean that everything in the house or in the marriage was bought by him. And she could not do anything about it. She could do something, get a lawyer, and basically fight off her in-laws, but because we planned that we are going to teach them a lesson, we are not going to do anything about it until we get like default judgment, which all that happened. And we went to the sheriff of the high court and asked him on which day he was going to effect eviction, and he gave us the date and time, and then we drove there. So we drove in my car, and we didn't park far away from the house because we wanted to watch the whole thing unfold. And there it was. The sheriff of the high court came with the police and with some few other people that we didn't understand who they were. They knocked on the door and basically put a sign, I don't know what that sign was about, in front of the house, and people were still in their pajamas when they were asked to leave. So we were sitting in the car, and we were just like laughing and high-fiving each other, and we're like, lesson learned. But at the same time, we were both feeling bad, like, oh my goodness, because the reason why we're feeling bad was because these people had actually abandoned or sold their house in the township. It was not like a 4-room township house, but we knew that somebody else was staying in that township house. And they were like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Mind you guys, it's been 7 months or 7 to 8 months since they kicked her out of her own house on her husband's funeral day. When her mother-in-law decides to call and says, Tanam, my child, Tanam, Unjani, meaning how are you? We haven't spoken in a long time. So how are things, my child? And we're both looking at each other. So she's not a disrespectful child. We are not disrespectful people. We were not raised like that. So despite everything that they've put her through, she was still civil towards her. My cousin sister's like, no, ma. We basically looking through the windshield, like, no, I'm fine. How are you? Ish, Yazi, life is up and down. No, my child, I just wanted to apologize about everything that transpired between you and me. Hey, Yazi, Jena, meaning, I was wondering, how far are you? Where are you? And she's like, I'm at work. Oh, okay. So when are you going to... Oh, now you're working. Yeah, I have been working for the past 10 years. Oh, is it? Yeah. Tell me something, my child. Whose house is this? When you guys threw me out of the house, I did tell you it's my house. How? The house was not your husband. No. Sfiso was laid off in 2011. How? Why did you say anything? No, we thought it was nobody's business. So we thought we'll just keep it to ourselves. I was going to go and work and take care of the family. How? And the cars? Whose cars are these? All 3 of them are my car. I pay for them every month. How? The other day the bank people just came and took the cars. Yeah, that's because I stopped paying for them. How? My child, Ntanam. And she said, they was like, and sooner or later, you will also lose the house. How? Yes, I was about to tell you that, hey, we are getting kicked out of the house. She's like, yeah, I see. She's like, okay, so what are we supposed to do? And then my cousin sister is like, I don't know. Where do you stay? Oh, I live under a bridge with my children. Under a bridge, yeah, if you just go down. So basically, she gives her a fake street in Johannesburg, and they live under that bridge for the past 8 months. And the mother-in-law is now we watching her. She's pacing about. She's dumbfounded, like dumbfounded. The sheriff and the people that he came with were busy throwing things out of the house, basically their clothes and other things that they would not need, as a way of paying back what they're owing to the bank and things of that nature. So she had a straight face on the phone. I was dead. Like, I could not hold myself laughing. I had to actually open the car door in full view of these people getting kicked out, because they also know me. The way the whole thing was so funny to me. I was finished. I was dead. I was laughing. I could not hold myself. And the neighbors in the neighborhood were like, what is going on? It was so funny. So when I composed myself, I went back into the car and they were still on the phone. And at this point, she was saying, yeah, do you wanna, she's like, so do you wanna come and join us living under a bridge that you have placed my children and I in? She's like, mntanami. She just kept going on and on and on like that. And so my cousin sister is like, you know what, I gotta go, I'm at work. And she's like, no, Pella, what are we supposed to do now? Then my cousin sister's like, well, you need to find your own bridge to live under, ma. There's nothing else I can tell you. She then hangs up the phone and we are dead in the car laughing. We were like, high five, sister. And so they were basically asked to leave the property and they were escorted out of the property. And we kind of like followed them in the car that we were in, which is my car. And as they were basically being taken away from the interior of the suburb, and then they were left on the street. Can you imagine? They were left on a street corner and they were given something like 50 Rand to take a taxi to wherever they were going to go to. So we drive and we're looking at them and the mom is like crying. And she was asking questions like, what is going on? She didn't understand like what exactly just happened to her and her family. So about a week later, her mother-in-law called back and said, hey, I need to have a meeting with you. Something serious has just taken place. And I told my cousin, go and hear her out. This is your moment of justice served. And you will be so satisfied looking her in the eye and see her break down. And that's exactly what happened. She basically started begging my cousin's sister, saying that they don't have anywhere to stay. The house that they lived in the township no longer belongs to them. And things are not looking good. They have not eaten in so many days. The children as well, blah, 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 blah. My cousin's sister looked her straight in the eye and said, your son denied your grandchildren and you cheered him up. You agreed with him. So I'm sorry, because you kicked us out and you told me that the business that brought us together is no longer here. I need to get out. So I got out without a fight. I wanted to explain to you what was going on, but you were not willing to listen. So I'm sorry, Ma. I'm moving on with my life together with my children, living under a bridge. At that time, she was dressed to kill. She had stilettos on. She looked drop dead gorgeous. She wanted to make sure that her mother-in-law saw that she was thriving in life. The mother-in-law, of course, did not know that she was working and she was getting paid some serious good money. And she could basically take care of herself. She could have taken care of the entire family all by herself. But they decided to be smart and kick her out of the house. So the moral of the story, guys, is that this taught me a lesson that if you're a woman, if you're a black woman and you're watching this video, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you get a phone call and the phone call tells you that your husband has passed on, do the following things. Go get yourself a pen and paper, because I'm about to give you a piece of advice. Now go on. Okay, you're back. Now, the first thing that you would do the moment you hear that your husband has passed away, collect every important document. The house title deed, policy documents, you name it. His ID, his driver's license, car keys, you name it. Now, in the black culture, I think in the Zulu culture, I'm not sure with other cultures, I can't speak for them, but the moment there is a death in the family, especially of a husband, the wife will sit on the mattress and she'll be covered with blankets the entire time while they're busy organizing the funeral. And basically she doesn't do anything. She just sits there on the mattress with candles lit on, and people can come in and out to see her and pay their condolences and moan and grieve with her until the day the funeral is over. So I will say to you, if you are a wife and then your husband, you just heard he has passed on, take all those documents, go with them under the blanket with you. Do you hear what I'm saying? Under the blanket with you. If you're not going to go under the blanket with them, make sure that you give these documents to somebody you trust. To lock, if you have a bank vault, go put it in a bank vault. If you have like I said, if you have somebody that you trust, give these documents to them, to hold on to them and never say a word about them. Because the reason why you're doing that, while you are busy covering yourself on the mattress, some of your in-laws are going to seek for these documents, because some of them would have a sinister plan against you and you want everything to be on your side. And once they get hold of the title deed, once they get hold of the car keys, once they get hold of the policy documents, you will basically be thrown out. That is going to be your fate. Because there are some family members who are just sitting and waiting for their well-off brother or well-off sister to pass on before they hijack their possessions. So just make sure that is what you do. If you ever find yourself being kicked out by your in-laws, then the best advice I can give you is make sure that while your husband is still alive, have a lawyer, a family lawyer, or one of these clientele law things. Just make sure that if anything that your in-laws try, you also have some sort of legal protection that is going to defend you against your in-laws if they try it. If you are the breadwinner and they don't know that you are a breadwinner, do what we did. Teach them a lesson. I know. I can be vindictive like that. I think with cancers, we're very nice people. We are very nice people, but we can be very vindictive. So so the moral of the story is love your in-laws, but do not trust them. Period. So needless to say, my cousin's sister, she is living her best life as a widow, and she's raising her two beautiful kids, and they are the smartest thing ever. And my other cousin sister, who I saved from her horrible marriage, she is now engaged to be married to a nice man. And again, I did exactly what I did before. And this time around, I also charged for one cow. And this gentleman does know of the story of what had happened in her first marriage, which is actually a very nice thing. And I think my cousin is pretty lucky in life, because some women that come from marriage, they become unmarriable, if there's such a word. Some people don't believe in marrying a woman that's divorced. So she was pretty fortunate to find somebody who loves her for her and respects her and wants to build a life with her. So I'm very happy with that, and I trust this guy with all my heart. So because he and I kind of like do have a conversation, we do talk about things, and we share the same views about gender-based violence. So I sincerely believe that to curb the crime, we need to have very harsh sentences. And one of the sentences is, if you rape, be castrated. If you're going to murder, be hanged, period. So he and I share same ideas. We share the same sentiments when it comes to gender-based violence. So I know that my cousin sister is in safe hands. So my 2021 was quite eventful with my cousin sister and her in-laws. So right now, my cousin sister, she is just basically focusing on raising her children and moving on with her life without these evil in-laws. And they now and again, they do try and bother her, wanting to borrow this, wanting to borrow so much. And sometimes they would even call me, and I am not their in-laws. So I would tell them straight on that I will not betray my cousin sister by talking to you guys behind her back. So please never call me again. What they had put her through, imagine if she was not working. Imagine if she had nothing. That means she was going to be subjected to a life on the streets with her children, 2 young children. So I always believe that the same energy you treat me is the same energy I'm gonna bring back to you, period. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to my story time today. And I'm definitely going to be back speaking all things YouTube in my next video. So I just thought, let me tell you the story time, because I asked my cousin sister if she can allow me to talk about this, because it just recently wrapped up. And so I thought, hey, I need a story time, and this is it. So thank you for listening. If you like this story time, please give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell notification so you do not miss out on any of my new uploads. And also do leave a comment down below and let me know if you had a similar story like this, or something related to you as a widow being kicked out by your in-laws, or you are in that process, or whatever is going on. And I'm very interested to hear your side of the story. And also share this video far and wide. Guys, I noticed that you watch my videos, but you do not give a like. You know, a like is very important for the YouTube algorithm to push my videos. So I would highly appreciate it if you liked the video as well. I would highly appreciate that. So until we see each other next time on my next video, goodbye.